What did you do?
What did you do?
What did you do?
What did you do?
Before we get started, I do want to say thank you to everybody who joined me over on Twitter. Thank you to my patrons and my Subscribe subscribers, and the people who donate via one-time donation on PayPal. Your support really helps this channel continue, and I appreciate it way more than you know. In case you haven't noticed, I like Game of Thrones. In fact, I really like Game of Thrones. I like it so much that I recently purchased all of the books on audiobook on Audible. And I'm not one of these reactionaries who automatically dismisses something just because it has female characters, especially when it comes to Game of Thrones, because I like a lot of the female characters in Game of Thrones. And the reason I like the characters, and I say most of the time they can be separated from this modern feminist renaissance in film these days, that presents us flat two-dimensional characters, is because unlike those characters, the Game of Thrones characters are actually shaped by the world. They're strong in different ways depending on their circumstances. They're not strong and just good at everything because females are strong and good at everything, and the director or the filmmaker or the showrunner wants you to believe that message. They fit within the story. Brienne is a great fighter because A, she is built like a dude, and she was never comfortable living life as a lady because she's an unattractive woman, and in the world of Game of Thrones, being an unattractive woman is like a social death sentence. Cersei is not a good fighter, but since she was raised as a Lannister, she acts as a Lannister. She's always been jealous of Jaime, her twin brother, and the fact that he was treated differently from her, and she's been trying to live up to the legacy of Tywin Lannister. She's not as smart as Tywin Lannister, but she's very cunning in her own right, and that makes sense based on the circumstances that this character was brought up in. And I also really like Arya Stark as a character. Although I will point out that her ninja powers are completely unearned because all she did was defeat the waif, and then she refused training from the Faceless Men instead of accepting training. I think that was a mistake, especially if you're going to show her to be the greatest fighter of all time and the hero of everything, like in this episode. But I do like her as a character, them butchering parts of her arc aside. I'm putting all that out there up front because there's already a narrative forming that basically says, if you don't like the ending of this episode, it's because you're a sexist and you hate women and you hate women characters. That's complete nonsense, and anybody who's spewing it is spewing complete nonsense. The reason I didn't like, and a lot of people didn't like this ending, is because it did not live up to what was built up. And I don't care how many live reaction videos of people at bars cheering for this moment you put out on the internet. This was stupid and ridiculous, and it completely undermines Bran's arc, Jon's arc, the Night King as a concept and as a character, and borderline spoils the whole show.
For, God, I think it's probably 3 years now or something, we've known that it was going to be Arya who delivers that fatal blow.
She seemed like the best candidate, provided we weren't thinking about her in that moment.
We hope to kind of avoid the expected, and Jon Snow has always been the hero, the one who's been the savior, but it just didn't seem right to us for this moment.
And just like The Last Jedi, it doesn't appear that this was done for any particular narrative purpose. It doesn't look like they were following something that George R.R. Martin laid out for them. It looks like they did it just to say that they subverted expectations. They did something you didn't expect. And if you don't like it, it's only because it's something you didn't expect, not because it was a lazy shock narrative choice that didn't really make any sense for the narrative. And it's a shame because overall, I did actually enjoy this episode. Sure, I had some issues with it, mainly the fact that I had to turn up the brightness on my TV to even see most of this episode. Whoever decision it was to shoot this without any lighting was ridiculous. It was a pretentious move. I heard they did it because they're like, there's no real lighting in the real world. I'm like, yeah, but there's also no dragons in the real world. And also I'm watching a TV show. It's a visual medium. So I'd like to see it. You can do dramatic nighttime lighting, but actually do some lighting. But even despite that, there were some great moments in the episode that I really enjoyed. It's just this ending is so unsatisfactory. It's literally taking a page right out of the book of Rian Johnson from The Last Jedi and having a Deus Ex Machina come and subvert our expectations. Awful. Now look, I am being a little bit salty, but in my defense, they've been building up this conflict between Jon and the Night King for years, and they literally didn't fight once throughout the entire series. He just stared at him. They were about to fight, but then the Night King raised a bunch of whites, which was cool, and I liked that, but it was on the expectation that they would at least fight a little bit. And if you weren't going to go in that direction, and you were going to have somebody without a personal connection to the Night King kill the Night King, then why would you choose Arya when there's a way better candidate that would have subverted expectations but also fit the story narratively speaking? And the character that I'm talking about that would have fit the story way better and actually caused future conflict to make the remaining episodes more interesting would be Jaime Lannister. First reason why Jaime would be a better candidate than Arya, because Jaime is wielding a sword that's made from a melted down version of ice. So he would be using Ned Stark's sword to protect Ned Stark's son. Ned Stark's son that Jaime himself crippled. The next reason Jaime would be a better candidate to kill the Night King than Arya is because Jaime is already known as the Kingslayer for slaying Aerys Targaryen. That name has always been wielded against Jaime as an insult, and it would have been fitting that being the Kingslayer would have been exactly what they needed in this story, and him being the Kingslayer would have been an honor going forward. And the third reason it would have been better for Jaime to kill the Night King than Arya is had he survived that encounter, like it wasn't a situation where they both died, then the person Daenerys was going to reject would have been the hero. Also, Jaime has some split loyalty with Cersei, so maybe you think twice when the man who saved you is the brother of the queen you're trying to overthrow and kill. There's no legitimate reason why in the very next episode Daenerys doesn't execute Jaime or take him as a hostage to wield him against Cersei as a weapon. Now I know a lot of you in the comments are saying, but Jaime without his hand doesn't really have the skills to fight the Night King, and you'd be completely wrong because it turns out the Night King can't fight at all, because Arya didn't overwhelm him with any special tactics. She literally dropped a knife from one hand to the other, and the Night King, instead of using a basic counter move, just stood there and got stabbed to death because he was like, yeah, I'm a joke. This whole arc about the White Walkers, a complete and total joke. We shot this in the dark so you wouldn't know what would happen and you would feel disoriented throughout the whole battle, but you'd at least feel like something important was happening. But it turns out it's just a joke, because Arya can just do anything and beat anyone in this world, so you just have to accept that, otherwise you're a horrible sexist who hates women. Now, a lot of you are theorizing that maybe the Night King's still alive, maybe he's being reborn in the Land of Always Winter, but honestly, I don't think any of that's true. I just think that the Night King was a big red herring, which is unfortunate since the show started with the White Walkers for a reason. The books start with the White Walkers for a reason, and the show just made it into a joke. Cersei's final villain, which I'm okay with in theory, it's how you get there that actually matters to me. I'm always talking about how I'm interested in the political game of this show, and I do like the battles, and I really liked a lot of the stuff in this episode. I love Melisandre's return. She's very mysterious. She had a lot of tricks up her sleeve. It's just endings are important, and the ending of this story, the White Walker arc, is just not satisfactory. It feels like yet another plotline that the showrunners couldn't wait to get over with, and I'm very disappointed by that. Daenerys really lost a dragon for nothing, because it turns out the Army of the Dead, completely pointless. Look, this is going to serve as my review for Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 3. I did overall like the episode up until the ending, which spoiled the whole thing for me. I did enjoy Jorah's death from a character point of view, because he's been with Daenerys since Episode 1. He's been in love with Daenerys since Episode 10, and it was the way that he would have chosen to die had he had the option. There were some other character deaths here and there. I know a lot of people are saying that there weren't enough character deaths. Grey Worm seemed like he was set up to die. I actually am happy that he didn't die, because I felt like that setup in the last episode was too obvious, even though I did pick him to die because I don't have a lot of faith in the showrunners. I wish Ed didn't die, because he's so cynical and he's so funny, and he's one of those original Night's Watch, even though I think he showed up in Season 2. He's one of those original Night's Watch crew, and I think somebody as cynical as him should have survived, but, you know, he died. and it wasn't that important. Anyway, that's gonna wrap it for me today. Let me know what you think about the end of the Night King. Let me know if you think that Game of Thrones went full Last Jedi. Let me know if you're disappointed. Let me know if you loved it. If you have a good argument for why this works for you, that's not just you blowing smoke up D&D's ass because they did a little bit of foreshadowing for Arya to be the person who kills this character, then let me know in the comments down below. I'll definitely read through them. If you like this video, then please show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social medias. Support me with the support links in the description box below. But this is the end. They went full Last Jedi. Till next time.